Hey everybody, it's Kevin and Marina from RPH Ally. Lauren is actually traveling today, so she won't be able to join us. And Marina is in a back-to-back. The RPH Ally crew is super busy today. We're excited to be with you guys, and we're going to talk about something that was kind of interesting. Phenylephrine could be pulled off the market here sometime soon. And oh no, Marina, there's nothing that we can do other than use that for congestion. We'll talk about that in just a second, along with a few other exciting studies right after this clip. Marina, catch me up on life. You had a really exciting week last week. There's a book that is coming out that I'm seeing more information on. You had multiple educational events, so let's hear it.
Yes, so much has happened this past week. I was at a beautiful women's gathering out in Ithaca, New York, which is kind of like a ways away from me. I had to drive 5 hours, but I don't regret it. Took a week off with the family. We did Pennsylvania for a few days, and then we did the conference, and then my parents came up to help with the kiddos. So it was like, yeah, it was an effort, a collective effort. But I taught 2 workshops that went really great. I did embodying our menstrual cycle wisdom as a woman. So talking about all the phases and how we can really harness what the phases are doing and mirror that in our life. And then we did the self-care Mayan abdominal massage training, and I've gotten really positive feedback. So really happy with the results. And I met a lot of other professionals, healthcare professionals that are also looking to support themselves and build community and learn about herbalism and other things through these kind of networking and conferences. And by the way, it's a camping style conference. So, you really got to tune in to the elements there, and we got some rain, but it was really nice overall. And then, yes, myself and Lauren Kessel, we were featured. We were contributors to a book, so we can have we had our book launch yesterday, and we did like readings from the excerpts, and we did that with the Story Institute. And the book is titled Quantum Healing, and it features a number of authors, also healthcare practitioners that have started to utilize energetics and herbal and functional medicine modalities and all of these other ways that they're supporting their patients and themselves because of our own personal journeys. So it's been a wonderful process. Wow. Super fast, like from the beginning to now, having the book launched and on Amazon. We also offered free Kindle downloads for the past couple of days. So if you didn't grab that, check that out, and support us. Leave us a review. Because of the support, we actually were able to make bestseller within like the first few hours of being live. So that was a really cool experience.
How exciting, man. Congratulations, Marina. Wow, that's really cool. So tell me a little bit more. So with the book, when we're looking to grab the book, why should we read it, and what are kind of the main takeaways you would say from each individual? Because there's like 15, 20 individual authors. Like it's a good group of individual healthcare practitioners that are sharing their expertise, right?
Yes, exactly. So I actually just dropped the link. I'm not sure if it's going to post across all platforms, but you could just go on Amazon, type in Quantum Holistic with a W, Healing, Awaken Your Journey, and it should pull right up. And the main author was Dr. Christine Manukin, who spearheaded the project. But the thing is, we have united themes, even though there were several contributing authors, like over 20 authors, I believe. You still see the themes. Yesterday when we chatted about each chapter, it's like we all had very different lives, but we all have these interconnected themes going, and the lessons that we were learning, what our health or our body was teaching us, or all these processes. You can't go through life without pain and without trauma, but you can learn to interface with life in a better way, that is more helpful to you, and you can use that energy to build or to destroy, right? So that's kind of what I took away from it. And then how we each had our own, awakening. Literally, this is why it's called Awaken Your Journey. And anybody who is living a human experience can really benefit from reading these books and seeing that they're not alone and there are solutions out there and you don't have to suffer. And, you can relate to everybody's stories in here.
No, that is so cool. I wanted to show that real quick if it loads on my side so you can see. There is the book right there. And here is the number of individuals that have contributed. Our very own Marina there and Lauren right there. That's super exciting. I love that so much. Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I think the connections to be made between different healthcare practitioners' journeys and their perspectives is so interesting, because the lens that you look at the world is a little bit different once you become a healer or a healthcare practitioner, on the way that you not only take care of yourself, but also others. So I love that you guys give those kind of aspects of kind of awakening your overall healing journey inside it. And then with your, and nice, you said another one in there, FMPHA members. So with all those things, Marina, tell me this, when it comes to, I guess, your most recent experience of talking about really owning like the menstrual cycle, having women take advantage of and maybe harness all the elements, right, to what's happening to their bodies during those periods of time. It's so interesting. You and I might have touched on it. And it might have been a total different podcast that I was on. But we talked about some of the wearables that are out there that are tracking temperatures and tracking cycles and looking at for exercise optimization. And I know that there are some folks at Whoop and I think Aura that are doing some pretty significant studies related to it. Aura is really focused in on sleep, elements that I know they put out some publications, but they both are really looking at how do we help women to be able to track these things with a wearable. And one thing I always thought was interesting, Marina, is I think that's great, right? To be able to use a wearable and track it. I also think it's interesting that we become so detached from our own bodies that we need a wearable to tell us, how these things are working or where they are. But one thing I will say, if we have a good way to say, oh, that signal, that way that I'm feeling, or that difference, now I have some kind of, analytical component to it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on a couple minutes of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a couple of nuances. So yes, it does take intention and really observing and taking the time to reflect and noticing the patterns and like sketching out, what that looks like and seeing the consistency in each cycle and then month to month. And you can learn about that both for fertility planning or for if you don't want to, get pregnant. We can actually look to the body for signs to see which of the phases we're in. And there's really only 6 days in the whole entire cycle, which is, textbook 28 days, but it could differ. Only 6 days out of that, you're fertile. So if you see that window, that's like what we're looking for the most part. But there's also like power, like you said, in all the other phases too. And so knowing where we are, it can help facilitate certain things like how we should be structuring our life around our body. But what we tend to do is the other way around, is structure our body around our life. And, I'm going on vacation here, so it would be inconvenient for me to get my period there. And, I could see, obviously, it's not convenient, right? But that's the thing about health and healing. It's not always going to be the most convenient thing to prioritize rest and self-care. And this is why a lot of times people say natural medicine doesn't work, is because who has the time to make it work, right? Who has the time to go and put on a poultice or sit there with like a compress or, take some time to like decompress, and nobody makes that time. So the wearable question
for all the long-term side effects of having depression issues and mental health breakdowns and your body deteriorating on you when you're hoping to live your best life during retirement. Who has time for that, Marina? I mean, that's the other part of the question, right?
Risk and benefit. You're prioritizing term. But the wearables are really cool, and I do recommend them, especially those that track your basal body temperature, because that's one of the signs we look for. Now you can track your cervical fluid, which is really telling, and then you could also check the position of your cervix yourself. a lot of people might find that disturbing. But yes, you can absolutely get in touch with your body that way. And the wearable, the benefit of that is that you don't have to wake up every single day at the same exact time to test that basal body temperature, because it can automatically get set up to mark a certain time, so that if your schedule does differ, like weekends and weekdays or whatever the case is, shift work, it will still measure it at the same exact time without you having to get up and track it. So I think that part is cool.
Yeah, less invasive, more kind of intuitive, that you can almost start sensing those elements of how your body is changing. I always just think that's so fascinating. And one thing that changes with the body, as you know, Kevin likes his segues, but is oftentimes dyspepsia issues during pregnancy. If we're trying to track our cycles, get pregnant, one of the problems that can pop up is we can have some stomach acid issues, oftentimes anatomically based, right? So it can be positional, it can be related to now changing some meal patterns, all of those things. But a lot of times we'll reach for a treatment, and that treatment usually, Marina, is a PPI. And who has time for it, right? Who has time for not getting fixed immediately?
Is that really first line though? But that's what we're seeing. Yeah.
We are. I mean, and the one reason why it's first line is not necessarily medically first line, but when someone says my stomach is having issues, one of their friends in their group says, I've taken this drug and it's helped me before.
Yeah. And it's OTC now.
And it's OTC now. And so we immediately go to a proton pump inhibitor. And with proton pump inhibitors, we know that there is a myriad of issues that come with them. Altering the stomach acid, go figure. There's a reason why our bodies are made the way they are, and protect lots of things and break down lots of things. And there's nutrient elements to it. But there's a recent study that came out that I wanted to discuss with you. I'll pop it up here real quick. So it was in BMJ, and it talked about using curcumin, or a turmeric component, to be able to take away from the immediate need to go to a PPI that could cause all of these other problems. Fascinating to me, I guess, mostly for our channel, Marina, is that we don't get these often enough, right? We don't get these head-to-head drug versus natural remedy options so often.
And a double-blind RCT at that.
You hit it. And so I think there's a lot of elements, and you see where it was done. It was done in Thailand, which I think is another interesting element of looking at some overseas studies, that there could be some more rationalization with pharma's pull in other nations versus the United States. But regardless, it's showing that, yes, is the convenience level really high? No, you're taking 250 milligram capsules twice, 2 of those capsules 4 times a day for the turmeric, utilization. But there are alternatives, and there are different routes that we can end up taking those that can still help. But when it comes to the pain scores, the satisfaction scores, everything else, it was a wash, between omeprazole and using turmeric, or in this case, I guess, curcumin. Anyway, what are your thoughts, Marina? I guess 1, specifically on this, and 2, thoughts on seeing more trials come out that are comparing existing natural remedies versus pharma.
Yeah. Well, let me, before I go into my spiel, say that I discussed this. Yeah, I discussed the difficulty and the confounding variables in general of studying herbal medicine, which is why we don't see enough of these things. I'm glad that they're coming out, though. Yesterday, I had a webinar with FMPHA, which is the other link that I dropped in there. So if you're interested to join our community of practitioners, we do monthly clinical webinars, and I was the first guest speaker yesterday, and it was really cool. And we're getting to know the community, and really, just like our PH Ally here, we're joining for a common mission, and we're learning, okay, you're in managed care setting, you're here. How can we start to advocate for more of these studies, or, us starting to talk about considering covering either herbal medicine or herbal products, or seeing some of this evidence and presenting it within pharmacy and within different settings. So really, really cool stuff. And my topic, of course, was herbalism. So yes, there are a few confounding variables that inherently, it's very hard to remove when you're studying whole plants, and, the quality control there of how they were grown, and soil quality, and all the things that we talked about before. And if they're, even if you try to control for the growing conditions, it still can have differences from batch to batch. And as far as these studies and similar studies, they are using like extracts for the most part. So curcumin by itself is different from turmeric, however you pronounce it. It's different, right? Because it's an extract. And we have studied the extract separately. We've studied the whole plant together. We noticed that there are benefits and synergy with the whole plant. So this is kind of the caveat of studying things. You still will probably have a more reductionist approach, and it will still be, sort of like branded with a certain company, and you can't apply it for any other extracts, this information, right? So it's difficult. And it doesn't surprise me, though, that they got a result like that, because turmeric and curcumin being part of that and contributing, it's anti-inflammatory. It has a bitter flavor, which we talked about flavors on this show before. And the bitter component is actually what's helping us to regulate our gastric secretions and help us have peristalsis in the right and proper direction. So the properties of turmeric, like beyond this study, they're vast. So it's not surprising. Like me personally, I would combine it with some black pepper and some oil, and eat it whole. But that would be my suggestion.
Okay, nice. And can you repeat that, Marina? You broke up just for a second. You would combine the turmeric. We said love this element of the absorption components with.
So it is lipophilic. So we would either combine it with a meat that has some fat or oil, or just a drink that has some fat or oil, like a nut milk or regular milk or something like that. And that was the traditional way it was used. And as a spice, you can add it to meals. And then black pepper is like the cofactor that helps to activate it as well.
Love it. No, that's perfect. Here is the next piece for us is really, I think, an interesting one. So that is just comparing. Here's what we have for OTCs versus what we have as herbal products. This one really jumps into both herbalism and functional medicine here for us when it comes to, let me just show it real quick to the audience. And if you guys have any questions out there in the audience, I'm bad about this, but always ask. You can interrupt us anytime and jump in. But I laughed when I read this, Marina. Here's why many decongestants may soon disappear from store shelves. So that's talking about phenylephrine and the phenylephrine studies that have come out there. Fascinatingly, I've seen other pharmacists comment on this. It didn't work. It never has worked. Even looking at the higher increased doses that were kind of proposed out there that were problematic because of blood pressure concerns, it still didn't provide relief. And yet we have now added it as an excipient almost to a number of other cough and cold remedies. So if those are coming off the shelf, I'm not worried about those coming off the shelf, Marina, because it never worked and it wasn't a recommendation coming from this pharmacist. But when it comes to like your overall thought process, I guess my real concern is decongestant utilization in general without a functional medicine thought process of what is the root cause of that congestion in the first place is an interesting topic I'd love to hear your thoughts on. And the second piece is, for all those individuals that are saying, okay, my patients would grab a phenylephrine component, what should I use now? What are some of the herbal options that you would recommend, or even just natural options that you would recommend?
Yeah, so the first question would be the cause, the root cause. Like, are you congested in your ears? Is this chronic? Is this acute? Is it the sinuses? Is it when you're, flying and changing your pressure? Is it when you're consuming dairy and you're dairy sensitive? For a lot of little kids, that's kind of why they get so many ear infections, and then they end up getting, all kinds of procedures done. But the root cause could be a dairy allergy. So we want to rule all that stuff out. And then if you had a sinus surgery and you're getting congested, like, you don't just reach for decongestant. There's actually a root cause for that too, and there could be some clotting, speaking from experience. And so you want to ask your doctor or provider to really assess that root cause rather than just start managing symptoms on your own, because there could be something else going on, and then you're just going to get into a habit of reaching for the drug pill for every ill. So having said that, yes, there are herbal and homeopathic products that we can use, and they also depend on the root cause. So we will use specific things depending on what else is going on. And so, like the regular, let's say, sinus rinses, Neomed or Neti Pot is something that I recommend for any sort of sinus congestion or pressure. Um,
Mhm.
if you are changing pressures, if you're like flying, right, or atmospheric pressure,
Yep.
opening your mouth is just open your mouth, or chewing gum or chewing something. It can be helpful to relieve the pressure. Specific herbs, I like osha root for anything to do with the sinus. Could be a little bit drying though, so I
Mhm.
would combine it with whatever else is going on. um, and of course, I would look to the endangered status. OSHA is actually one that is on the endangered list. So if you can get it responsibly, then that's a good option. And other than that, I mean, there's so much. There's like homeopathic decongestant sprays. There's some with actually capsaicin in there,
Yeah.
or xylitol in there to help with
Great.
decongestion. Taking something like a quercetin supplement can be helpful as well, because there's just those inflammatory mediators going on that are contributing. Medicinal mushrooms. There's so much. Reishi,
Interesting.
one of my favorites.
Wow. Yeah, I think
Nettles.
that the
Nettles. I can't believe I didn't mention nettles yet. Yes, nettle leaf. It's
nettles,
great.
that's one of your
Yes.
favorite plants. Got to make
Yeah.
sure you plug that one. So the interesting thing for me is, I guess, two real quick notes is that from a pharmacy standpoint, the logical like step is going to be oxymetazoline or pseudoephedrine. And so I think with Sudafed, lots of problems there with Sudafed, I think,
Yes.
in general,
Both of
right?
them.
Looking at
Rebound
why,
effects.
why are we going to go with Sudafed? Well, now we have a controlled behind the counter element to it. Plus we have the increases in blood pressure and some other
Right.
issues that you may experience, and it might not be necessary. Overall, there's also sleep concerns, with individuals being able to have any somnolence after taking Sudafed. The other side, the oxymetazoline, which I feel like I see this way too often, Marina, is if you're taking it for an extended period of time, oftentimes more than 3 days, you're going to
Right.
have rebound congestion that happens from it. And so that is another important nugget to make sure that our patients know if they're
Yeah,
pulling
and
more
that'll last forever.
out.
So,
And it's brutal,
yeah.
for the individuals that go through that. So I think those are good ones. And the one thing that I feel like we don't do a good enough job of, Marina, even if you're a pharmacist out there that goes, I don't know what Marina is talking about when she talked about mushroom utilization or nettles and where I would get those. Some things that Marina mentioned right off the bat was using a flush or a rinse, and other things that may seem like everybody knows this, but they don't, is taking a hot shower or a warm shower, increasing the humidity in your room, right? All of those things can help. And I
Yeah,
think
using a
we
humidifier. Yep.
those elements that go in play as well. But no, I love hearing some of the additional options that we don't have to be worried. Phenylephrine didn't work anyway. There are other alternatives, and we don't have to go to pharmaceuticals right off the bat there. Marina, any things for us to let the audience know what's going on in the world of functional medicine and herbalism today?
Well, check out that last link. Check out Lauren's offering as part of her membership, and anybody that is part of the FMPHA community has special, discounts and things with partners that she set up, including with my program with helping you build your holistic herbal practice.
Nice.
And anybody part of RPH Ally too has special ways that we can work together if you're curious about herbalism.
Beautiful. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I think the only things that are on my agenda that I want to talk to you about, we'll have to save for another episode, is that the World Health Organization had an herbal and
Oh, yes,
traditional
I
medicine.
saw that.
Right?
Yes.
Lauren and I
Yeah.
talked about that, and I was like, oh man, I needed Marina on this one. But we'll have to definitely discuss that in a future episode coming here soon to a TV screen / computer / phone near you. And then the other piece that I had is we do have, and I'd love for people to be able to check it out. We have our recordings of the RPH Ally Soiree where both Marina
Yes.
and Lauren and 20 some other individuals were able to talk through kind of all the exciting things happening in pharmacy. So jump onto that. The other things are really these when it comes to our episodes and what we're kind of showcasing. We've got a number of ideas of adding psychedelics and some of the experts that we know in the community to come and join us and talk about those things, and cannabis and some of the other elements that are looking everything beyond the RX, right? But if you guys as an audience have anything that you would like Marina and Lauren and I to discuss or to bring up in conversation, then please do so. And if you'd like to join the show, then hey, let us know that too. Otherwise, those are the only things I have, other than I hope everybody has a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right. Have a great one, everybody.
You too.